Hey everyone, it's Rye bringing you the Shoshone Ramble video. I'm joined by Cirra, so I'm going to unmute and then we're just going to start the discussion. Okay, Cirra, so we're talking about Shoshone. I think we'd be remiss to not mention the first and most important thing about the Civ, which is the Pathfinder. So when you start Shoshone, I guess what are you looking for? When you spawn in your game, what is the dream situation for you?
Second, I wasn't here.
Okay.
I said
Okay,
actually.
I'm gonna leave it in. I don't care. When you spawn in a Shoshone, what are you looking for? What tells you like yes, this is exactly what I'm looking for?
That's a tough question. Okay, you really like Shoshone to spawn on uh, on flat or being able to three-turn growth ideally or four-turn growth because then you go jump into three pop on your first growth, first ruin, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It's just versatile. You like to be not far away from the coast, as far away from the coast as possible, because this means that you get ruins.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good point. I think the thing I was trying to get is like this Civ it doesn't need anything. They're perfectly happy to play pretty much every start. Uh, And the nice thing about it is that, like you said, it's so versatile and how it can navigate pretty much every single tree. So I think let's talk about the Pathfinder still. When you're playing, how many Pathfinders do you make? So you spawn with the one, so you don't get the warrior, but you get the Pathfinder instead. So you spawn with the one. How many Pathfinders you making?
Well, I make either one or two, and this depends where I spawn. If I see coastline, then of course I'm
It's
not
just a one. Yeah.
gonna do another one. The Civ has better scouting overall because your starting unit is not a warrior; it's a scout, so it has ignore terrain cost.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get away with one scout, right? With building one extra scouting unit more often than with other civs. It is more expensive,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, no, and that's a good point. And let's say you find a ruin. Well, what order do you like taking? I think this is a place where a lot of people go wrong. They'll you know how many new players I see take tech? Like
Yeah, you don't take tech pretty much ever. I've done it once, I think, but in general, it's either pop or combo. And I'm leaning personally. Most players, like experienced players, lean towards a combo. I lean towards a pop ruin,
yeah.
because this you don't need two combos unless you're doing honor, and if you're doing honor, then of course, and you're kind of already leaning into honor, picking your first ruin, then of course pick a comp because getting the second comp is amazing for honor. But if you're doing leaning towards sim, just take pop and just guarantee that you get a fourth ruin with an extra pop, which you can pick with anything. Like the problem with aiming for two combos is then you see on your fourth ruin you see a ruin and the only unit that can pick it up is your comp,
Yep.
right? And then you have to take something awkward like tech, like I don't know, it's probably too early for culture, but
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's a great point. You can't upgrade the same unit twice. Can't just be having crossbows on turn 10. Um,
exactly.
and I think that that's an important point too. I think I personally have been leaning more towards comps, but if you are more focused on like if you want to be able to flex tradition, I think pop first is just a no-brainer. Um, because I've found that it's most common you get 4 runes, not 5. So if you have to get 2 of something, oftentimes I'd rather have the 2 pop than the 2 combo. Um, but
Yeah, exactly.
that being said, what are the combos even good for? Like what makes this so scary in the hands of some like hyper aggressive players?
Well, the combos are just a very sophisticated piece of technology when it's turn 15, right?
Yeah.
So they have now no counterpart. among the units you can see, and I don't know if they two-shot scouts, but on plat I think they do.
Mm-hmm.
So you can bully people away from your territory where potentially there are still ruins looming, and obviously you don't have any barb issues because you can clear any barb camp at will with your combo. And well, primarily you use them for killing CS or players.
Yep. And this is just uh, in this screenshot, you can kind of see poor little Baku over here just getting eviscerated by 2 combos on turn 16. So it kind of goes to show that if this is a very swingy Civ, it's incredibly consistent, but it also has that potential to high roll like crazy, right? You can take an insane amount of CS just from your essentially just your scouting units without having to build anything else. So it's
Yeah, exactly. Like it's very consistent in the sense that the think of the worst games you had, the bottom 20%, they don't exist with Shoshone.
yeah,
You always get your pop, you always get your gold, you always get you never have barb issues. So yeah, the 20% is gone, and it moves to the swingy part,
yeah,
the chance for that.
the higher swing games, and those can be even crazier. Um, so I guess that's a good segue to talk about kind of the different types of trees you can play with this. I think in previous rambles, I've talked about Austria, which really likes tradition. I've talked about Rome, which wants to play wide. I've talked about Sioux, which kind of can do a little bit of both, but generally prefers wide play. Um, I think the one really nice thing about this Pathfinder, in addition to their UA, is that it kind of activates every single starting tree and what they need help with or what kind of guarantees them good games. So, for instance, like for tradition, let's say you wanted to play tradition Shoshone, you can almost guarantee you're going to get 2 pop runes and be 5 pop making settlers, or at least 4 pop making settlers, right? Um, Similarly, if you want to touch on Liberty or Honor, because you're definitely a Monument gamer like myself, if you want to talk about that too.
I'm a delayed monument gamer.
Yeah.
Honestly, compared to you, I sometimes do. My default often is just scout worker, but that's besides the point.
Okay, so when what makes this an especially good honor civ, aside from the fact that you can potentially get these free CS kills that no other civ of the game can do?
Well, honor doesn't have any border expansion
Yeah.
on the cities you settle, so it's a bit like piety, and yeah, it benefits greatly from those 4 extra tiles, and the unique ability is basically your Himeji. So that's always going to work for you whenever you, for instance, citadel into somebody.
Yeah.
You are a lot of the time fighting in your own territory, even when you're fighting an offensive war.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Himeji is also a semi-offensive wonder, and Shoshone as well. And you have those calves. Calves are, I mean, they're nothing special. +1 movement, it's always really good. They are a little bit cheaper, like 10% cheaper maybe. So they cost less to upgrade them from knights. The like the flip side is that it costs more by like I don't know 30 gold to upgrade them into landships.
Yeah.
But the landships will have extra on movement, which is like
Crazy.
a
That
policy
frankly,
in
that's one
autocracy.
of the nice. That's like the reason you'd upgrade a landship into a tank is for the move. But now you just get that for free, right? Because the combat strength difference between a landship and a tank isn't huge, but the really nice thing is being able to have 5 move.
Yeah, exactly. This means that you can move through 2 hills and then still slam,
Yeah.
or like you can slam into a hill and then cycle. Like it's the odd numbers on movement are more impactful than even numbers. I don't know. It sounds a little bit like
No,
ridiculous,
you're 100%
but
right.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. No, and that's a really important point. Um, so I think the key takeaways for this Civ is that it's kind of good at everything. It's so hard to kill Shoshone in the early game. Like if you've ever tried to like chariot this civ or compo this civ, you will have a tough time because your spears are not one-shotting they're not one-shotting their chariots anymore. Their stuff is taking a lot less damage than yours just because they're in their own territory, right? It's so hard to kill this civ. Not to mention they're also having a fast early game, which means their sim is probably better than yours.
And
So
Pathfinders are basically warrior with ignore terrain cost,
yeah,
and you can spam them and just delay infinitely. It takes a lot of shots to kill a Pathfinder.
yeah, yeah.
And they
Oh,
retreat
I
very easily.
wanted to also bring this up. I have a note about this. One thing that I think a lot of people don't do when they're playing Shoshone is they don't make some, you know, early to mid game Pathfinders to go explore the ruins on the islands. Because that can be crazy. You just have guaranteed pop runes, guaranteed gold runes. You never have to get a map. You never have to get faith, right? All that junk. You
Yeah,
can.
absolutely.
This civ is so consistent. It's amazing, and I think it's a reason why we saw it banned so much in the tournament games. Shoshone was actually one of the top most banned civs in the last tournament, which was kind of
Seriously.
surprising. Yeah, it was kind of surprising to hear, but it makes like no one's gonna bat an eye if you ban Sue or Shoshone, but it's just not the first thing you think of to ban, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know they're played consistently and with I guess good result.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. Um, that's all I had to talk about Shoshone. I'd say of all the civs I've talked about so far, it's definitely the most simplistic in terms of what it's looking to achieve, and the bonuses are, um, the most obvious to play towards. But the nice thing that makes the civ so strong is just the consistency, how good it is at amplifying all the weaknesses of all the other trees. But yeah.
It's definitely a very serious civ, like or serious people or whatever you want to call it, right?
It's a
When
try
you're
hard
going
civ for
into
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's such a
Like
try
there's
hard civ.
no like meme strat, there's no fancy building, there's no unique improvement, but it's just overall super strong and flexible.
Yeah, it's a civ like reminds me of like America or something like that. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's more fun and
Oh, for
more
sure.
interesting than America for me.
Yeah. And gotten have you ever killed someone's cat mid-20s with this civ?
No,
No.
I haven't. I have killed people like in 30s and using comps, but not this
Not
early.
just from the compost, a couple pathfinders, just popping some
Yeah,
cats.
but you can't do that with the honor warriors as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible, but I've seen armies do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all I wanted to cover. So thank you for joining me. This was fun. And yeah.
Thanks for having me. See ya.
Yep. Bye. All right, everyone. That's all I have. Big shout out to Cirra for joining. If you'd like to see more of these, leave them below and who you want me to have them with. I'll have another vote go around for the next one soon. But yeah, stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.